The midweek strategists have returned to penetrate the political fog and share the real significance of what's really going on in this crazy town of federal politics. Let's bring them in. Jason Leader is in Toronto. He's with Enterprise Canada. Right beside him in Toronto, Brittany Andrew Amofa of the Broadbent Institute. And with me in the studio, all by herself, Susan Smith of Blue Sky Strategies. Welcome to you all. Quick thoughts on Dominic LeBlanc. I'm trying to get a handle on whether this is a big ethical lapse or whether the Trudeau government is having ethical... Stop shaking your head, Susan. Having ethical problems, because this is the first of a number of ethical problems that also culminates with the Prime Minister. I'm not going to let you talk, Susan, yet. I'm going to go first to Brittany. Brittany, was this a big deal or not? And is this showing a problem in this government about understanding the ethical rules?
This is a huge deal, and it definitely demonstrates that this government has a problem with understanding the ethical rules and the code of ethics within our country. LeBlanc violated 2 sections of the Ethics Act. And what's even worse is that even after violating it, he got a promotion. And that promotion was a new cabinet role. So there are no consequences to breaching any ethics within this government or that this government's willing to uphold. So yes, this is a huge fundamental problem, and it's extremely disappointing. Also, just to further point out, is that there has been no penalties or no fines. So again, governments and, again, cabinet ministers can continue to engage in this way without facing any consequences. So absolutely appalling.
I'm sorry. I'm still not listening to Susan Smith. I'm going to go to you, Jason.
What she said. Oh, I'm telling you, Don, I am baffled by the fact that we're even having a debate over whether or not this is a huge deal. Bev Oda, I was in Ottawa for a while. Bev Oda was hounded from cabinet for having a $16 orange juice. This guy tried to give a $25 million fisheries contract to someone in his family without declaring the conflict of interest. This is unbelievable. You know, honestly, there's a lot of to and fro in politics. Dominic LeBlanc's a great guy. Everybody likes him in Ottawa. We all think he's a cool guy. He's a great guy to kibitz with, and he's a good minister. But this is unbelievable. I have to say, this guy should resign. He should go. He should be hounded out of office. And I think it's a question, to be honest with you, for the opposition in the press gallery, is if Dominic LeBlanc gets a kid gloves treatment on this, it's an unfair situation, and it's honestly, it's something that I think we all have to be held to account, because this is an ethical violation of the highest order, and he should be out of cabinet.
All right, I think we've had enough discussion on this issue. Let's move along to another.
All right. We get to have
all
high
right.
dudgeon on this.
Let's stop talking about that. Susan.
First of all, Bev Oda was hounded out of government for her $12 orange juice and for changing cabinet documents after the fact. There's a serious violation there. Second of all, Dominic LeBlanc said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. For the first time, and I think it's important to go back and look at this, what had happened was there was an intent signaled to negotiate with this firm. Yes, his wife's, that's his in-laws, 60th, or one of her 61st cousins was part of a consortium. It's New Brunswick, after all, folks, was part of this bid. Oh. In the end, no contract was awarded, and that was ended long before there was any ethics investigation. Mm-hmm. But Mr. LeBlanc has said, you know what? I should have called the Ethics Commissioner's office. I didn't, and I will going forward. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again. So I think people should calm down, take it. No, I think they should calm down and take. No, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. Oh. So I think people need to settle down a little bit and focus on what's. I think they need to focus on what's important.
Repeatedly in the House of Commons too.
Are unaware of
no contract was awarded. No preferential. The ethics commissioner was very clear in saying no benefit. There was no benefit. But the bottom line is it's not going to happen again.
Why don't you ask yourself?
Go ahead, Jason. One last shot.
If Doug Ford tried to give his wife's first cousin a $25 million contract using government money, let's see what you would have said. You wouldn't be saying what you're saying now, Susan. And honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing to hear what you're saying right now.
You can hardly put Doug Ford and Dominic LeBlanc in the same.
Yeah, he doesn't have an ethics violation.
Doug Ford's running around trying to break.
Yeah, it's about the principle and what the rules and the code of ethics.
which Mr. LeBlanc has acknowledged he will reach out. This is the first time ever. And I think it's important for people to understand. This is the first time ever that the conflict of interest. Hang on, Brittany. That the conflict of interest has defined who family is in the broader consent, in the sense that it's gone to your cousins-in-law. Well, now everybody knows Now everybody knows. I don't think you're going to see it again.
Jason's just about ready to have a cardiac, so let's move on. I don't think we're going to convince anyone to change their mind. But I do have to ask you, the Doug Ford circus, as some people would describe it, or government, as Jason would describe it, is facing a real mess in the Queen's Park right now. I'm curious, like, people all thought there'd be moderating influences on the Premier. Jason, are you surprised that he seems to be going for the red meat so quickly and sort of bulling the China shopping it a bit? And do you think this is just the start and he'll moderate over time, or do you believe that this is the way it's going to be for 4 years?
Surprised, no. Excited, yes. I have to say, there's a lot of conservatives pretty excited about what Doug Ford is doing right now, and he's sent a pretty tough signal to his opponents that he's got he's got determined to implement his agenda, and there's ways to try and block it. There's ways to try and frustrate it, but he's got some tools too. So I got to say, it reminds me of 1995 and 1996, where there was protests on the lawn at Queen's Park on a daily basis. And Mike Harris was re-elected in a big majority government, and I look forward to the election in 4 years. If my opponents here want to continue to defend a cot of 20 councillors and the fight that's happening right now, I think we're on the right side of the issue.
It's deeply concerning when I hear conservatives come to the defense of Doug Ford and his government. A government who has now, or a premier who has now deemed himself above the law, a premier who has complete disregard for a judicial system, for our legal processes, and also for our rights that is enshrined in the Charter. We are now living in an era of autocracy. We are now living in a dictatorship, and all of us should be deeply concerned with a premier that has no limitations and that is willingly rushing to abuse his power. So right now, I'm deeply concerned about what is next. And I'm glad that Jason is actually drawing Mike Harris comparisons, because Mike Harris ran an awful and cruel government that penalized the poor, that took lashes against our public sector workers, our teachers, the most vulnerable people within society. So if we can look and see what the impact of Mike Harris's government was in 1995 and 1996 and to the late 1990s, we will see that this province is not going down a good route.
Wow. I think, sadly, we're going to be wishing for the days of Mike Harris. Not that I wish for them. Look,
those were great days, Susan.
Doug Ford is like, yeah, well, depends who you are, but maybe in comparison to the Doug Ford era. Doug Ford is like a drunk teenager behind the wheel of a Camaro on the first day that he got his license. Whoa. And he is driving over democracy, and he is mowing down our principles in his path. Bill Davis, who is one of the authors of the Constitution, the former Premier of Ontario, said using the notwithstanding clause was not to do something over something insignificant was not what it was envisioned to do. And my concern is Doug Ford thinks he's the big shot. He's got the keys. He's behind the wheel of a car, and he's going to go as fast as he can. He doesn't care who's in his way. And I worry about that for the country.
Wow. Quickly, I want to move on. Quick last comment on the NDP. We didn't have a chance to go to the caucus retreat out there. Here's a quick clip from the leader done earlier today.
The Liberals were elected on a platform that we could probably say it had some strong NDP elements in it. And I mean, it's okay. I mean, they might have stole from our playbook. And I don't mind that. I don't think any of us mind that on one condition. They actually do it. They implement it.
All right, let's be quick on this. Quickly, Brittany, how bad is it for the NDP, and what can they do to get back?
We can start with me. I'm just glad to see that Jagmeet is at least back in the game. He was missing in action for a very long time, and at the very least, he's getting some media attention in order to convey his message. I think right now things are definitely bad, but it's a year on out towards the 2019 election, and anything could happen. If the election was to be called right now, absolutely they would not be in a good place. If they get their act together and they can clean up their message and they can convince Canadians that Trudeau has definitely failed on a number of progressive initiatives, including the Trans Mountain Pipeline, including not passing electoral reform, including his failed commitments to environment and climate change, then I think the NDP can be positioned well. Also, if they add in the defense of cities and municipalities within their messaging, I think they can come out strong.
I'm out of time, but I'll give you 15 seconds to deliver last rites on this. Jason, what do you think?
All right, come on. The NDP, what NDP? You saw that clip. Everybody knows how brutal that was. Jagmeet Singh is Justin Trudeau's best weapon in the next election, and I've thought it for a long time, and I continue to think it.
Jagmeet Singh has no caucus unity, no seat, and no money. So he's got a big mountain to climb for bringing the party back in time for the next election.
That was a pretty concise obit. All right. Thank you all. We will see you again at the next break.
Happy birthday, Don.
Oh, please. Okay.